Okay. Close your eyes for a second. I want you to just run a little simulation with me here.
All right, I'm game.
Imagine I drop you onto a piece of land. You don't know where you are. You look west. The sun is setting, but it's not that flat, that infinite horizon you associate with Texas or the American South. It's not that slow fade into a hazy distance. The light is actually breaking against these jagged ridge lines.
Yeah.
It's purple, it's a bruised orange, and it's catching the tops of trees that look almost prehistoric.
And the sound, you have to add the soundscape to this simulation.
Right, the sound. Good point. It's not the wind in the grass. It's this specific hollow rhythmic sound of water. Water moving fast over limestone. Cold, clear water. So if I asked you to guess where you were without looking at a map, what's your bet?
Based on the topography you're describing, the steepness, I'd probably say Colorado.
Okay.
Maybe the foothills of the Rockies, somewhere near Durango, perhaps.
Exactly. That would be my guess, too. And you would be completely wrong.
Completely wrong.
We are in Texas. Specifically, we're deep in the Sabinal Canyon, looking at a property known as the Lazy Sea Ranch.
The Lazy Sea.
And today, we are doing a deep dive into a stack of documents that, frankly, shouldn't exist.
That's a bold start. Why shouldn't they exist?
Because we're looking at a 705-acre tract of land that has survived, remarkably intact from 1872 all the way to 2026.
Wow.
In a state that just loves to pave, subdivide, and, fracture its own history, this place is a complete anomaly. It's a glitch in the matrix of modern development.
What's a survivor?
It is. A true survivor. Now, for you listening, yes, technically, the source material for this whole deep dive comes from a real estate listing.
Right.
We have land beads, biological surveys, architectural plans, the whole 9 yards. But if you think we're here to sell you a house, you're on the wrong show.
We are not realtors.
No. Today, we are cultural historians.
We're analysts, and the mission today, I think, is to answer a question that just kept popping up in my notes as I read through this entire file. What does it actually mean to inherit a landscape?
Is it just a name on a deed? Is
Yeah.
it just, a wire transfer for a huge amount of money? Or is it something heavier than that?
Exactly. We're going to look at the human story. I know you're chomping at the bit to get into the pioneers who literally moved mountains to get here.
Oh, absolutely.
But I also want to just completely geek out on the ecology, because the real value of this place isn't in the square footage of the main house.
No.
It's in the water chemistry. It's in the DNA of a tiny little salamander.
So we have cowboys, we have rare amphibians, and we have a $20 million price tag.
Sound like a good day at the office.
Let's dive in.
Let's do it. I want to start where I always like to start, the deep history. And for the Lazy Sea, the beginning isn't the 1980s or even the 1950s. It's 1852.
Which, just for context, is barely a decade after Texas even became a state.
Right.
The Civil War hasn't happened yet. The map of this country is still being drawn in pencil, essentially. This is the true frontier. It is the Wild West. Right. And into this picture steps a man named Gideon Thompson. Now, the documents all call him a pioneer, which I think is a word we overuse a lot.
I agree.
We think of some guy in a coonskin cap just wandering around. But Gideon Thompson was more like an industrialist of the dirt. He was an empire builder.
The scale is what's just staggering. I was looking at the original land grant maps from the county records in our file.
Yeah.
The Thompson land holdings in this one valley, the Sabinal River Valley, at one point exceeded 30,000 acres.
30,000 acres. Let's just pause and try to visualize that. That is roughly the size of the entire city of San Francisco.
Wow.
One family, one man.
And he didn't just, click buy on a website from an air-conditioned office. He had to physically claim it. He had to be there.
And that's the detail that really stuck with me from the historical accounts we have. The barrier to entry.
Right.
In modern business, a barrier to entry is like a high patent cost or a complex supply chain or something.
Sure.
In 1852, the barrier to entry for the Sabinal Canyon was literal boulders.
The pass. It's mentioned in a few of the oral histories.
Right. The historical accounts mention that when Thompson and the other early families like the Anglins and the Robinsons, when they first arrived in 1852, they came with these huge ox-drawn wagons.
The U-Hauls of their day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the pass into the canyon, this specific valley we were talking about, was a fortress. It was a natural box canyon. There was no road. There was barely a deer trail.
So what did they do? I mean, they didn't have dynamite yet. Not really for this kind of work.
They stopped the wagons. They got out. And they moved the rocks by hand.
Oh, God.
I'm serious. We're talking about massive limestone boulders. They had to use levers, pure manpower, to leverage them out of the way just to get the wagon wheels to turn a few more feet.
It changes your relationship with the property before you even step foot on it, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, today we talk about access in terms of convenience. Is there a paved road? Is there a gate code? The Lazy Sea actually has its own landing strip now, which is just the ultimate convenience. We'll get to that. But for Thompson, access was a test of will. It was a physical trial. If you weren't strong enough or stubborn enough to move the rock, you didn't get to live in the valley.
It filters the population.
It completely filters the population. You only get the stubborn ones, the determined ones.
The stubborn ones, I like that. And Gideon Thompson was definitely stubborn. The file says he was a veteran of the Texas Revolution. He fought at Goliad.
So he'd seen some things.
He had seen the absolute worst of humanity in war. So a couple of big rocks probably didn't scare him much.
Probably not.
He brings 600 head of cattle, fruit trees, seeds, tools. This wasn't some land speculator just trying to flip a parcel.
No.
He was planting a civilization.
And that's the fundamental difference between buying land and settling land. He intended to die there. His family intended to die there.
But here is the tragedy of so much American land ownership. It's the law of entropy. It's what I call the great fragmentation. Okay, so a patriarch like Thompson amasses 30,000 acres, an empire. But then he has, say, 5 kids. When he dies, the land is split 5 ways.
Right, so now you have 6,000-acre ranches. Still huge.
Still huge, but smaller. Then those kids have kids, and their kids have kids. Suddenly you have 500-acre parcels. Then a highway comes through and splits a few of them.
Then a developer buys a chunk along the road.
Exactly. Over 150 years, a kingdom becomes this patchwork quilt of 10-acre ranchettes with white vinyl fences and barbed wire everywhere.
The checkerboard effect. You see it when you fly over Texas. It just chops up all the wildlife corridors. It breaks the ecosystem into a million little pieces.
But the Lazy Sea, this 705-acre tract we're looking at, this is the anomaly.
It dodged the knife.
It totally dodged the knife. Our sources say it represents the largest remaining contiguous tract of that original Gideon Thompson holding. It's like a piece of the 1870s that just managed to slip through time untouched.
So when you stand on that land, you are quite literally standing on the core, the heart of the original empire.
And that continuity matters. It gives the place a spirit, for lack of a better word. You could almost feel the weight of that history. And speaking of history, we have to talk about the towns nearby. Because nothing exists in a vacuum. The Lazy Sea is right near Utopia, Texas.
Utopia, a name that certainly sets some high expectations.
It does. Welcome to Utopia. Try not to be disappointed.
All right.
But did you know it wasn't originally called Utopia?
I did see that in the historical notes. It was originally Montana, wasn't it?
Yes. Which is just hilarious considering we're spending this whole episode talking about the Colorado of Texas.
Everyone just wanted this place to be somewhere else in the Rockies, apparently.
Probably so. They looked at the mountains and said, this feels like Montana.
It must have been pretty confusing for the mail carriers back in the day. Montana, Texas?
Very. But the real gem, the absolute best part of the local history, is the town nearby, Vanderpool. You know what Vanderpool was originally called?
I do, and I've been waiting for you to say it out loud. It's just too good.
Bug Scuffle.
Bug Scuffle. You cannot make that up.
You really, really can.
Yeah.
The Bug Scuffle School? Imagine having that on your diploma. Class of 1888, Bug Scuffle High.
It sounds like a dance move. Or maybe a very minor disagreement at a local bar. We just had a little bug scuffle. It's nothing.
It really does. But there's this great texture to the local history that's preserved in the Sabinal Canyon Museum. One of the source documents describes a photo of an old baseball uniform they have there.
Oh, yeah.
It's from the Highways 90 League, and it was worn by a player named Leo Kanan back in 1950. It just paints this perfect Norman Rockwell picture, but with more, dust and limestone.
It grounds the sort of luxury of the modern ranch, I think.
How so?
It reminds you that this isn't just a resort that was dropped in from outer space. It's a real community with deep, quirky roots.
Yeah.
People have been playing baseball, going to church, and probably having bug scuffles over fence lines here for a very long time.
That's a great way to put it. But we should fast forward a bit. We go from Gideon Thompson in the 1800s to the modern era. The property hasn't just been sitting empty.
Right. And this is a really important part of the story. For the last 40 years, since 1986, the ranch has been owned by the Stanford and Camper families. And this is where the story shifts from pioneering to stewardship.
That shift is absolutely critical.
In 1986, the records show they bought the core 510 acres. Then, in 2009, they added another 178 acres that had been split off at some point.
So they were reassembling the puzzle?
They were reassembling the historical puzzle, in a way. But the key takeaway from the oral history transcripts with Blake Stanford is their philosophy. He said, and this is almost a direct quote, that they didn't treat the ranch as an asset to be optimized.
That is such a rare thing to hear in the world of real estate. Usually, it's how do we subdivide? How do we maximize road frontage? How do we get the most lots?
Exactly. Optimized usually means monetized. It means selling off the valuable river frontage in 50-foot strips so more people can have a tiny slice. The Stanfords treated it as a responsibility. They could have sold off, 10, 50-acre riverfront lots and made it an absolute fortune over the years. But they kept it whole.
They chose not to.
They chose not to. Blake Stanford calls it a responsibility to the river, to the land, and to the generations that came before and after. I mean, that is the literal definition of stewardship.
And because of that restraint, because they didn't carve it up, the ecosystem stayed intact.
Yeah.
Which is your territory.
It is.
I want to pivot now to the land itself. Why does Ann Schneider, who's a longtime visitor and essentially an oral historian for the property, keep calling this place the Colorado of Texas? Is that just, some marketing fluff?
It really isn't. And this is where we have to look at the geology to understand why.
Okay, take us to school.
So the Lazy Sea Ranch sits right on the edge of the Edwards Plateau. This is a geological feature called the Balcones Escarpment.
The escarpment.
Right. Now, in most of the Texas hill country, you have rolling hills. They're gentle, they're pastoral, it's beautiful, but it's not dramatic. But here, in this specific spot, the land buckled. There are major fault lines that run through this area.
Which means you get verticality.
Exactly. You get lift. The elevations on the Lazy Sea exceed 2,000 feet. That's significant for Texas.
Very.
You have these sheer limestone ridge lines that drop steeply down into these protected box canyons. It creates a visual drama that you just don't get in, say, Fredericksburg or Wimberley.
So you're looking up at the landscape.
You are looking up at the landscape, not just across it. That's where the Colorado comparison comes from. It's the visual drama of the rock meeting the sky.
It's mountainous.
It feels mountainous. But the real star of the show, the crown jewel, isn't the rock.
No.
It's the water.
The Sabinal River.
It is absolutely the water, the Sabinal River. Now, I need to throw a statistic at you that, I'm not kidding, it stopped me in my tracks when I was reading the legal description of the property.
Okay, hit me.
The Lazy Sea owns 1 full mile of dual bank frontage on the Sabinal River.
Okay, so unpack dual bank for the listener who might just think, okay, cool, it's on the river. Why is that such a big deal?
So in Texas, water law can be, let's say, complex.
A nice way of putting it.
Often, a property line runs to the center of the creek or the river. They call it the center line. So you own the east bank. Your neighbor owns the west bank.
Okay, so I'm sitting on my porch enjoying a little slice of nature's paradise.
And you're looking directly at whatever your neighbor decides to do on their side. Yeah. If they want to clear cut all the cypress trees right to the water's edge to get a better view,
I have to look at a scar on the land.
You have to look at it. If they decide to build a giant neon lit dance hall or throw a rave on their riverbank every weekend, you have to listen to it. You have zero control over 50% of your immediate ecosystem.
Right. You're sharing the view, the access, the soundscape.
Exactly. Dual bank means you own both sides. You own the land on the other side of the river, too. It ensures total visual privacy and, more importantly, total ecological control. If you want that far bank to remain wild and overgrown to support nesting birds and other wildlife, it stays wild. It creates your own private, protected corridor.
A sanctuary.
A true sanctuary. To find a full, continuous mile of that is exceptionally rare. I can't overstate that.
Then this isn't just any water. We're not talking about a muddy stock tank or a slow-moving, murky river here.
No. Oh gosh, no. We are talking about what the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department officially classifies as a pristine stream segment.
Pristine. That's a strong word.
It's a scientific designation. The water quality data from the 2024 biological report shows phosphorus levels are persistently below 10 micrograms per liter.
Okay, translate that for us non-scientists. Is that good?
It's elite. It's what limnologists, people who study freshwater systems, call oligotrophic.
Oligotrophic. That's a good Scrabble word.
It is. It means low nutrient. Now, you might think nutrients are good, right?
Yeah.
Plants need nutrients. But in a water system, excess nutrients usually come from pollution, agricultural fertilizer runoff, cow manure from upstream leaky septic
Right.
systems.
Right.
High nutrients make algae grow like crazy. Algae blooms, and that turns the water green and cloudy and chokes out other life.
So low phosphorus means?
It means crystal clear water. Gin clear. The sunlight penetrates all the way to the white limestone bottom, and it bounces right back up. It's like looking through glass.
And you said this was rare?
The report states that less than 1% of all Texas streams meet that stringent criteria.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%. This is truly elite water. And because the water is that clean, the life that depends on it is specific and, in some cases, very rare.
Okay, so what was in there?
Well, the Biological Survey mentions the Guadalupe bass, which is the state fish of Texas, by the way, and it's found only in the specific region of the hill country.
Right.
And the plateau shiner, another sensitive species.
Yeah.
But the real indicator species, the one that tells you everything you need to know, is the salamander.
The salamander.
The Uracea troglodytes complex.
You've definitely been practicing that pronunciation.
I have. I didn't want to butcher it. These are a type of lungless salamander.
Lungless. How does that even work?
They breathe through their skin. Now just think about that for a second. If you breathe through your skin, you are incredibly, exquisitely vulnerable to whatever is in the water.
Of course. Your whole body is along.
Exactly. If the dissolved oxygen level drops, you die. If there are toxins in the water, even at low levels, you absorb them and you die. These salamanders are living, breathing, biological sensors.
So the fact that they're there.
The fact that they are thriving in the Sabinal on the Lazy Sea property is nature's ultimate stamp of approval. It is definitive proof that the entire system is clean and healthy from the springs all the way down.
That is fascinating. It's like a canary in a coal mine, but it's a salamander in a crystal clear creek.
Precisely. And framing that pristine water are these absolutely massive trees. The forestry report details ancient bald cypress trees lining the river.
The big ones with the knobby knees.
Those are the ones. Some of these trees are likely hundreds of years old. They were probably there when Gideon Thompson showed up.
Wow.
Their root systems, those knees that stick up, they create critical habitats for fish and frogs, and they stabilize the banks during major flood events.
So it's whole system working together.
It's a perfect Goldilocks ecosystem. You have the cold, clear water, you have the giant cypress and sycamores in what's called the riparian zone, and then as you move up the slope away from the river, it transitions into live oaks and native grasslands.
And because of all that diversity in the habitat, the hunting, or just the wildlife viewing, if that's your thing, is apparently world-class. The ranch operates under a 1D1 wildlife exemption, which we should probably explain briefly.
Sure, it's pretty simple. In Texas, you can get a property tax valuation based on agriculture like running cows or on active wildlife management.
And they switched from ag to wildlife.
They did, which means they are actively managing the land for native species. The wildlife reports list huge populations of white-tailed deer, obviously, but also Rio Grande turkey.
Yeah.
And then you have the exotics that have become naturalized in the hill country axis deer and Aoudad sheep, which absolutely love that rugged, rocky terrain. It's like their native habitat.
I noticed a really specific detail in one of the old inspection reports that I thought was so telling about the reality of land ownership. They mentioned the apple orchard.
Ah, yes. The ghost orchard.
The ghost orchard, exactly.
Yeah.
At one point, there was a pretty significant apple orchard planted in the central quadrant of the ranch. But the report notes that many of the trees were lost over the years to something called cotton root rot.
Which is a nasty fungus that's naturally present in a lot of the soil in the Southwest. The scientific name is Phytotrichopsis omnivora.
That sounds like a Harry Potter villain.
It basically acts like one for plants. It attacks the root system, cuts off the water supply, and the tree just wilts and dies almost overnight. It's brutal. But I love that this detail was included in our source material because it reminds the listener, or, a potential buyer, that this is a living, breathing system. You can have the best plans, you can have millions of dollars, you can plant the perfect orchard, but the land has its own microbiome. The land has its own agenda.
It's not a sterile environment.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And stewardship isn't just about celebrating the successes, it's about adapting to those failures and learning from them.
It adds a layer of authenticity, I think. This isn't some manicured golf course where nature has been beaten into submission. It's wild.
It is. And that wildness is the backdrop for the human element, which is equally impressive in its own way. We really need to talk about the compound.
Yes. Let's shift gears to the built environment. because you hear $20 million ranch, and you might picture some, 15,000 square foot mega mansion with marble columns and a giant fountain out front.
Which would be just tragic in this kind of landscape. It would look like a spaceship had landed and crushed the very thing you came there to see.
It would be terrible.
Oh.
But that is not what the lazy sea is. The architectural sources we have describe a philosophy of low density. There's nearly 23,000 square feet of improvements, which is a lot of roof, but it's broken up. It's a village, not a palace.
That's the compound concept. And structurally, for a legacy property, it's brilliant.
Why do you say that?
Well, if you have one giant house, everyone is on top of each other all the time. The grandkids, the in-laws, everyone. But if you have a cluster of smaller purpose-built structures, you give people autonomy. You give them privacy. The family can be together without being on top of each other.
That makes sense.
Well,
Let's take a little tour. The main house, it says here, was built in the early 90s. It's 3,451 square feet. The materials listed are native limestone and cedar, Saltillo tile floors.
That's the classic Texas hill country vernacular. It's honest material sourced from the land itself.
It feels humble. Right? For a property of this scale. The descriptions emphasize that the house settles into the trees rather than trying to rise above them. It has these low interlocking roof lines. It's trying to be part of the canopy, not dominate it.
And did you notice the little detail about the glassed-in porch that was later converted to a home gym?
I did.
That shows the evolution of how the family actually used the space. It wasn't a static museum piece. It changed with their needs over the decades.
Okay, so from the main house, you've got the Hunter's Heritage Guest House, 3 bedrooms, perfect for the cousins or the grandkids when they visit. Then you have the River Lodge, which is, as the name suggests, located right on the water.
Which is a sensory experience all its own. I mean, can you imagine sleeping there? The sound of the river moving over the rocks acts as a natural white noise machine.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning and the very first thing you see is the cypress knees and the mist coming off the water.
And then for social gatherings, there's the poolside cabana. This sounds like the party hub.
For sure.
It's 1,803 square feet, has a kitchenette, a game space, and these huge sliding doors that open up to the pool deck. It's designed for that indoor-outdoor flow that everyone wants, but so few places actually get right.
But we have to talk about the amenities that made me smile, the unexpected ones, the fun stuff.
The toys. Okay, first off, the sauna.
The log cabin. I love this part.
Yes, it's a 196 square foot log cabin that they converted into a modern, finished dry sauna in 2022. I just love the juxtaposition of that.
Me too.
On the outside, it looks like something Gideon Thompson might have built as a smokehouse. On the inside, it's this sleek, luxury wellness experience.
It's witty architecture. It respects the rustic aesthetic of the place while updating the function. It says, we honor the past, but we also like to sweat in extreme comfort.
And then, for the ultimate James Bond feature,
Yeah.
the hangar and airstrip.
A 1,600 square foot hangar and a 1,200 foot grass landing strip.
Now, I'm a bit of an aviation nerd, so I looked this up. 1,200 feet is tight.
It is. You are not landing a Gulfstream or a corporate jet here.
No. This is for what they call bush planes. Tail draggers. Piper Cubs, Aviate Huskies, maybe a souped-up Cessna 180 if you really know what you're doing. It implies a certain skill set in a pilot.
But it completely changes the accessibility conversation we had earlier. We talked about how hard it was for Thompson to get ox-drawn wagons in there in 1852.
Right.
Now you can fly your tail dragger right onto the lawn, basically, for the weekend.
It creates a fly-in capability that appeals to a very, very specific demographic, but it also speaks to the sheer scale of the property. You need a lot of flat, open land to put in a runway in the middle of the hill country.
And finally, the sports court. A professional lake-hold tennis court, also striped for basketball.
And it's tucked away behind the main house. Again, it's integrated into the landscape with these low stone walls. It's not just a big slab of bright blue concrete dropped in a field. They clearly made an effort to hide it.
So you have all these different structures, all this square footage. But when you read the interviews with Ann Schneider and Blake Stanford, the value doesn't seem to be in the buildings themselves. It's in how the space makes you feel.
Ann Schneider said it best. She said, "It's a place to relax, a place to play." That was her summary. But she also described the sensory choreography. I love that phrase.
Break that down. What does that mean?
It's the way the place is designed to guide your experience. For example, the path from the main house down to the river. It's made of stone. It descends gradually through the trees. It forces you to slow down. You hear the water before you see it. You smell the cedar and the damp earth. The fact that there's no light pollution means the nights are actually truly dark.
Mm-hmm.
Dark skies are a vanishing resource in themselves.
So the property isn't just selling bedrooms and bathrooms.
No, it's selling time and peace and darkness and silence.
It's designing your mood. It's a deliberate transition you make when you arrive from the busy world to what they call river time.
That leads us perfectly into the final piece of this whole puzzle. The value of the legacy itself. We need to talk about the money and the legal status. Because, $20 million is a very big number.
It is, but we have to contextualize it. We have a valuation breakdown in the file. In 1986, the family bought the core tract. In 2009, they bought the addition to make it whole again. The appreciation has been steady, but the explosion in value for land like this really comes from one thing: scarcity.
You simply cannot manufacture more 100-year-old bald cypress trees.
Nope.
You can't 3D print a mile of spring-fed, pristine river frontage.
Exactly. You can build a beautiful house anywhere. You can import marble from Italy. You can plant 1,000 trees, but you cannot replicate this geology and this hydrology. It either exists or it doesn't.
But there is a very important legal detail in the file that is crucial for a potential new owner. The ranch is, as they say, unencumbered.
This was the big red flag, or maybe the big green flag in the documents for me.
What does unencumbered mean in this specific context?
It means there is currently no conservation easement on the property.
That actually surprises me, given how ecologically valuable it is.
It is very rare. Often, properties this special have already been placed under an easement by a previous owner, either to get a tax break or just to protect them in perpetuity.
And an easement restricts what you can do.
Severely. It usually limits subdivision or any future development, and that easement runs with the deed forever.
So the fact that the Lazy Sea is unencumbered.
It gives a new owner total power, total flexibility. They could be the villain in this story. They could be the one who finally chops it up. They could build a resort or a subdivision. The potential is there.
But the opportunity, the real opportunity, is to be the hero.
Exactly. This is the legacy angle we've been talking about. The new owner gets to be the one who places the conservation easement on the land. They get to be the one to legally cement the preservation that the Stanford family did voluntarily for 40 years.
That's a powerful position to be in.
It's a hugely powerful position. You get to decide the future of this canyon for the next 500 years.
That brings us to the idea of the legacy buyer. Who is this really for?
Well, it's not for a developer. I mean, the math might work on a spreadsheet, but the whole spirit of the place is wrong for that.
Right.
It's for a family looking for a multi-generational compound. The source anecdotes in the file talk about huge family reunions, BBQing down by the river, kids running between the different houses. It is designed for generations, not just for weekend getaways.
It's for someone who wants their grandkids to learn how to skip rocks on the exact same riverbank where they learned how to do it.
Precisely. It's an inheritance machine. It's designed to create and hold memories over a long period of time.
So let's try and bring this all together. We've looked at Gideon Thompson, the original pioneer who fought the rocks to get in.
Mm-hmm.
We've looked at the pristine science of the Sabinal River and its rare salamanders. We've looked at the humble, thoughtful architecture that tries to disappear into the trees.
And we've looked at the quiet stewardship of the Stanford family, who held the line against development for 40 years just because they felt it was the right thing to do.
When I think about the spirit of the Lazy Sea, and really the best of the Texas Hill Country in general, it's that unique mix of ruggedness and refinement.
How do you mean?
It's eating a gourmet meal on a beautiful limestone patio, but your boots are still dusty from the 5-mile hike you just took up the ridgeline. It's that combination.
It's the contrast. I like that. And I keep coming back to that final thought about silence and darkness. In a world that is increasingly loud, increasingly bright, and increasingly subdivided.
Optimized for maximum yield, as you said.
Exactly. In that kind of world, the ultimate luxury, the rarest commodity of all, might just be leaving something exactly the way it is.
That is the provocative question we want to leave you with today. In a world where everything is being developed, is the highest and best use of a piece of land to change it, or is it to let it change you?
I think we know where the Lazy Sea stands on that question.
I think we do. And hey, if any of our listeners end up being the next steward of this place, I call dibs on the first landing on that grass strip.
Fine, but I'll be waiting in the sauna.
It's a deal. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the legacy of the Lazy Sea. We'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye, everyone.